Hi there, one and all. I hope you're all doing okay. Jonathan here. But you can see it's me, and I just want to share with you for 5 minutes a very profound Easter thought for the day. Well, it was kind of for the day, the other day, like for Good Friday, Easter Saturday, Resurrection, Easter Sunday. But with our circumstances as they are, everything's got delayed. And now I have 15 minutes to record a 5-minute video. And I've got my Bible and the video's rolling. So I want to read to you a little bit from the Bible and then share a thought with you and leave it with you. And although it's late, we're not quite sure when Easter actually took place. So let's say it's today. It says here in John's Gospel and chapter 20, the first 7 verses, and I want to do just one verse. It says, on the first day of the week, that's a Sunday, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark and saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. Then she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, that's John, and said to them, they have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him. Peter therefore went out and the other disciple and were going to the tomb. And they both ran together. And the other disciple outran Peter and came to the tomb first. I think he was a little younger. And he, stooping down, it's a small and low entrance into your average tomb, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths, the grave clothes lying there, yet he did not go in. Then Simon Peter came following him and went into the tomb, and he saw that the linen cloths, the grave clothes, they were lying there. And, this is the verse, in orange, and the handkerchief that had been around his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded together in a place by itself. Then the other disciple, that's John, who came into the tomb first, went in also, and he saw and he believed. And the little thought that I want to share with you is about the handkerchief. Now look, I've got a hanky in my pocket. Here it is here. Now, I don't normally show people my hanky, but I'm going to show you my hanky very briefly right now. There it is there. It's a used hanky. Now, back then, they put a handkerchief, like a napkin, over the head, along with the grave clothes on the body of the Lord Jesus, or on the body of the deceased. They had a head covering and a covering for the body. And the Lord Jesus was laid down like this. And when John looked in, first of all, he could see very probably just the grave clothes discarded and put on the floor. And then Peter gets there a few seconds later on, and he just bursts straight into the tomb, having to stoop down low. Mary does that a little bit later on after they've gone off, and sees a couple of angels check the rest of the story out. And Simon Peter dives in there, and he sees the grave clothes there, but he also sees the napkin, the head cloth, the head covering, this handkerchief, folded up neatly and in its place, just where the head would be. Grave clothes over there, this is really important, and the head covering neatly folded there. Think about this. So then John comes in, he sees the scene after Simon Peter sees it, and it says he believed. Simon Peter, full of emotions, follows, it would seem, the perhaps more careful thinking of John, who comes in, sees the scene and believes. What does he believe? Well, he believes what we're led to understand, and I've only just come to understand, about a hanky. This all comes down to what we now know as well, but what was very clear to your average Jewish boy or girl back in the day. The master and the servant. If a feast was set out, the table was set out with all of the requirements that the master of the feast, the owner of the house, wished for the meal, then the servants would stand back in the shadows, as it were, until the master of the feast had completed the meal and they'd all dined and left. And there was a sign for that. Hang on, let me just blow my nose for a second. Only kidding. So there was a sign for this. The servants would be looking out for this particular sign to know that the feast was over. The master of the feast would eat, and then he'd get to a point, he'd pick up a napkin, He'd maybe wipe his face, wipe his beard, wipe his fingers, and he would discard his napkin and he'd throw it to the ground. He would get up and he would go. And then the servants would take over and they would clear away the table. But, and this is the key joyful point, if the master of the feast picked up his napkin, maybe he'd wiped his beard, cleaned his fingers off, folded the napkin up and put it back in its place, even if he left the table, they knew the master of the feast was coming back. This was a very distinct Jewish custom. We have it today, you might say. You know, when the feast is over, you've used your napkin and you perhaps screw it up if it's, not a particularly valuable one, and you discard it. You've used it. But maybe if you're going to leave the table for a moment, you fold the napkin up or you put it back in its place. Do you know what? The Lord Jesus, when he was raised from the dead, he took the napkin off his own head, he folded it up, and he put it back in its place. And when Simon Peter, first of all, and then John went in and saw, he immediately knew what that meant. And therefore, verse 7 of chapter 20 of John's Gospel records the napkin or the handkerchief being folded up and put in its place. Jesus left a very distinctive sign that those back then immediately knew its meaning. He had unfinished business. He was coming back. Jesus Christ was coming back. Check it out. God bless you all, and I hope you have a great Easter. Hang on a minute. I hope you had a great Easter. And it won't be too long before hopefully we're able to restart Gazebo Church just out there on the bit of grass and enjoy one another's company in an easier fashion. So there we go. Thank you for being great neighbours, and God bless each and every one of you. Now, how on earth do you turn this thing off? Is it this button here?